a three-person film crew wandering through a dense forest, searching for the perfect filming location. Hours pass, night falls, and they suddenly realize they're completely lost. No matter which direction they walk, they somehow keep ending up at the exact same spot. At this point, it's obvious they're trapped deep inside the woods. Since there's no way out before sunrise, they decide to find a place to set up camp. But while looking around, they notice a man standing silently in the distance with his back turned toward them. When he slowly turns around, they freeze in fear. He's wearing a creepy homemade mask that immediately feels wrong. Naturally, the crew panics and runs. In the middle of an isolated forest, seeing someone dressed like that is enough to terrify anyone. But the situation gets even worse when they realize he isn't alone. Two more masked figures step out of the trees, including a woman. One crew member desperately checks his phone, hoping for even a single bar of signal to call for help. Unfortunately, before he can do anything, one of the masked killers suddenly attacks him with a sharp weapon, killing him almost instantly. Now, only the cameraman and the female crew member are left alive. Sadly, they don't survive for long. The masked killers hunt both of them down and kill them in equally horrifying ways. The story then shifts to another three-person film crew. This team consists of Hope, her partner Ben, and their cameraman. Their producer has sent them into the forest to find a cabin that can be used as the main location for a short film. After hours of searching, they still haven't found anything useful. Hope believes they'll have better luck deeper inside the forest, so the group keeps driving. Along the way, they stop at a gas station to fill up their vehicle. The cameraman records everything because the producer has given him one strict instruction: never stop filming, no matter what happens. At first, it seems like a strange request, but later it turns out to be far more important than anyone expected. Eventually, they discover an old cabin hidden deep in the woods. It looks isolated, creepy, and exactly like the kind of place they were hoping to find. Ben, however, immediately feels uneasy. He suggests they leave before something goes wrong, but Hope ignores his concerns. She believes they've finally found the perfect filming location. As she walks toward the cabin, they suddenly hear a woman screaming from inside. Without wasting time, all three rush inside to help. Moments later, they realize the screams are only coming from a television that was left playing. Just as they begin looking around, the cabin's owner suddenly appears and angrily demands to know why they've entered his property. Hope quickly explains that they heard someone screaming and thought someone needed help. Once the misunderstanding is cleared up, Hope asks if they can rent the cabin for 2 days. Seeing that they have no better option, the owner tries to take advantage of the situation by asking for $2,000. Hope immediately bargains, offering $750 for 1 day instead. At first, he refuses, but after thinking it over, he accepts the deal since it's still easy money for him. As he's about to leave, he suddenly stops and gives them a warning. He tells them never to wander too far into the forest because a group of people still lives out there. According to him, the government forced them off this land years ago. Most of them left, but a few refused to abandon the forest and have been hiding there ever since. He doesn't explain much more, but his warning clearly isn't meant as a joke. Once he leaves, Hope excitedly calls the producer and tells him they've finally found the perfect cabin. The producer is thrilled and says he'll come inspect it himself. To celebrate, the group spends some time drinking before heading back into the woods to scout additional filming locations. The forest looks perfect on camera. While exploring, Hope briefly notices someone moving through the bushes. She brushes it off, assuming it was probably an animal. Looking back, ignoring that moment turns out to be a huge mistake. Later that evening, the crew reviews the footage they recorded earlier. That's when everything changes. Hidden in the background of one of the clips, they spot the exact same masked man from the movie's opening. The room instantly falls silent. Hope immediately locks every door and window in the cabin. At this point, she knows someone has been watching them. Not long afterward, the producer finally arrives. The crew shows him the footage, but instead of taking it seriously, he laughs it off. He assumes it's probably just a local kid trying to scare tourists. In my opinion, this is the first major mistake the group makes. If they had left the cabin right then, things might have turned out very differently. Hope insists they leave immediately, but the producer asks everyone to wait a little longer because another member of the production team is still on her way to inspect the cabin. As Ben begins packing their equipment, Hope looks out the window one more time. Standing outside is the masked man again. This time, the camera captures him clearly. Hope rushes to show the producer, but before he can watch the footage, someone knocks on the front door. The producer walks over and opens the front door, but there's no one outside. Assuming it's just another prank, he shrugs it off and heads back inside. He tells everyone they're overreacting and insists they should stop worrying and focus on the short film. But only a few seconds later, someone pounds on the door again. This time, when the producer steps outside, he comes face to face with all three masked strangers. Instead of backing away, he tries to intimidate them and orders them to leave the property. The killers don't move an inch. Without any warning, one of them swings a hammer straight into the producer's head. He collapses instantly and dies in a horrifying way. The cameraman records everything before running back inside the cabin with Hope and Ben. After witnessing the murder with their own eyes, the three of them are completely terrified. Then they realize something even worse. None of their phones have any signal. It isn't because they're deep in the woods. The killers are using a signal jammer, making it impossible to call for help. As if that wasn't bad enough, the cabin suddenly loses power, leaving them trapped in complete darkness while the masked killers quietly surround the building. Hope realizes they can't stay defenseless. She rushes into the kitchen, and the three of them arm themselves with whatever they can find, mostly kitchen knives and a few flashlights. They quietly move into another room, trying to stay out of sight. One of the masked killers simply stands outside the window, staring at them without saying a word. While searching the cabin, Hope discovers a locked storage box hidden underneath a piece of furniture. Inside are dozens of DVDs. Curious, she grabs one labeled with the girl's name and plays it. What they see is absolutely horrifying. The footage shows a young woman tied up outside the very same cabin. Her hands and feet are bound while the masked killers drag her across the ground. Then, without showing any mercy, they attack her with a landscaping machine, killing her in one of the most disturbing scenes in the movie. The worst part isn't just how brutal the murder is, it's the fact that the video was recorded inside this exact cabin. At that moment, the group realizes they've walked into a place that's been used as a killing ground for years. Every DVD is likely another victim. These killers don't just murder people, they record every single killing like twisted trophies. In my opinion, this is easily one of the creepiest reveals in the entire movie because it proves these murders weren't random. They've been happening for a very long time. Running out of options, Hope finally shouts through the door and asks the killers what they actually want. One of them calmly gives a chilling answer. "We only want the girl." The moment Hope hears that, panic completely takes over. She tries reasoning with the masked woman outside, explaining that they're only filmmakers looking for a location and never meant to trespass. But it's obvious the killers don't care. Ben tells Hope to stop wasting her breath because these people have no intention of letting any of them leave alive. Just then, the producer's colleague finally arrives at the cabin. Hope immediately believes this is their chance to escape. She tells Ben that if they can reach the visitor's car, they might finally get away. But before they can make a move, Hope's phone receives a video message. With shaking hands, she presses play. The killers have already captured the woman who just arrived. The video shows them torturing her before brutally killing her with a power drill. As if that wasn't enough, they even rip out her fingernails before finishing her off. The scene is so disturbing that Hope can barely keep watching. Seconds later, the killers drag the woman's body directly in front of the cabin window so everyone inside can see it. Then they slash all 4 tires on her car. Just like that, their only escape plan is gone. Desperate, Ben decides to sneak outside anyway, hoping he can get far enough away from the signal jammer to call the police. He barely makes it a short distance before the killers attack him. Somehow, he manages to fight them off and rushes back inside, badly injured. Once the door is locked again, Ben notices something strange. Only 2 masked killers are standing outside now. The third one has disappeared. That can only mean one thing. He's already inside the cabin. Realizing the third killer is somewhere inside the cabin, Hope and Ben carefully search every room while the cameraman follows behind, recording everything. Ben grabs a crowbar for protection and slowly checks the bedrooms. Everything looks quiet until he walks past one of the beds. Suddenly, the hidden killer crawls out from underneath and grabs Ben's legs. Without wasting a second, Ben slams the crowbar straight into the killer's face, killing him on the spot. Outside, the remaining 2 killers realize one of their own is dead. Furious, they decide to burn the entire cabin down and force everyone outside. The 3 friends each grab a camera before trying to escape. But just then, the lights go out again, and the masked woman launches a surprise attack. Hope barely manages to run outside and disappears into the dark forest. Inside the cabin, the lights suddenly come back on. The masked woman attacks Ben from behind, but he fights back and drives his knife into her neck, killing her as well. Ben and the cameraman escape the burning cabin, but in the darkness they get separated. Meanwhile, Hope keeps running through the woods until the last chainsaw killer suddenly attacks her. She narrowly escapes and reaches her car, but the killer's already waiting there with his chainsaw. At the same time, the cameraman finally finds a phone signal and tries to call the police. But before he can finish the call, another masked killer appears out of nowhere and brutally kills him. That's when the terrifying truth becomes clear. There isn't just one group of killers. There are many of them hiding throughout these woods. Hope eventually reaches the road, where the cabin owner arrives in his truck. Relieved, she jumps inside and tells him everything. But instead of helping her, the owner starts driving back toward the cabin. Only then does Hope realize the horrifying truth. The cabin owner has been working with the killers the entire time. Without hesitating, she stabs him in the stomach and escapes once again. Elsewhere, Ben stumbles into an abandoned cabin, only to discover the cameraman's body inside. Before he can react, the chainsaw killer ambushes him and brutally kills him too. Now, Hope is the last survivor. Believing she may not live much longer, she records a final message, begging anyone who finds the video to hunt down these masked killers and stop them before they murder more innocent people. Soon after, she notices one of the killers secretly recording her. Using the environment, Hope sets a trap. When the killer falls for it, she smashes his head repeatedly with a large rock until he dies. But before she can escape, the chainsaw killer suddenly appears and slices across her stomach. Seriously wounded, Hope refuses to give up. During one final struggle, she drives her knife deep into the killer's chest, finally ending his life. Sometime later, Hope appears on a podcast, revealing that she survived the massacre. She shares the horrifying story of how her friends were murdered and announces that she's making a movie based on everything that happened. It seems like her nightmare is finally over. But that night, as Hope sleeps peacefully in her home, someone silently breaks inside while recording everything on camera. It's another masked killer. Within moments, Hope is murdered. Her victory was only temporary. The truth is, the killers she defeated were just a small part of a much larger group that has protected those woods for years. They believe the forest belongs only to them, and anyone who enters is an intruder who deserves to die. In their twisted minds, they're protecting their home. In reality, they're nothing more than ruthless psychopaths who record every murder to spread fear. And with that chilling revelation, the movie comes to a terrifying end.